I think one of the great things about an event like this is it brings together a lot of key players in the region, and I'm delighted to see that the North East is really committed, the business community here, really committed to looking at the opportunities that there are for renewables in particular, but not just, also for oil and gas, and also for energy saving. And all of those sectors are going to see growth over the next few years. Don't write off oil and gas. All of these sectors have got a good future, and the North East is very well positioned to benefit from them.
Well, we've put energy as a key plank of our strategy, largely because we see the region as a very important player in the national energy generation supply chain. We're very keen and very interested to contribute to the debate that the region and the country is having around how we meet the needs of businesses. It was really interesting how a lot of the speakers picked up on the need for a balanced energy mix going forward, so we can't rely on just one source of power generation for the future. We also need to think about efficiency in power consumption and how we manage our energy consumption going forward, and how we develop a grid that can cope with power sources as we move into the next phase of power generation.
I think it's been really interesting for myself to talk to some of the other speakers on the panels, speaking to Square One Law about their inputs into the electric car industry, listening to Chris Huhne's view on UK gas markets, and listening about how much coal we have in the UK. Just fascinating insights into the UK energy industry.
Well, I think the highlights were really understanding better some of the big issues, because often we look at it purely about what's the impact of that bill when it lands on our doorstep, rather than all the various parts that go into that. And really focusing on not the power companies, which is where so much of the political debate has been, but on the needs to generate power, where that needs to be generated, how it needs to be generated, and how the North East can contribute in that, and also the transmission of that power and how we need to play our part with that.
I think the main issue they should take away is the tremendous opportunities that the energy industry and all that needs to be done in the energy industry to keep the lights on in the UK. And we have the supply chain here in the North East of England that can really make those significant changes in the energy infrastructure to meet future energy needs.
The UK's current energy policy has to balance a whole series of goals. It's got to try and keep the lights on, that's absolutely fundamental. It's also got to try and give us some energy security, and it's got to tackle climate change. We can't go on emitting carbon into the atmosphere, creating more global warming and creating all the problems that will go with that. So those three goals, so often called the energy trilemma, I think it is the case that we can do all three of those things, and we can make sure that consumers get a fair deal as well.